Tree Demons of Thorny Ridge. Even demons need culture. The 52nd Trial of the 81 Calamities. Protagonist: Duke 18, Young Master Ling, Duke Guzi, Elder Fuyun, Immortal Apricots. Weapon: none. Characteristics: cultivated and refined, enjoys composing poetry and matching couplets. Weaknesses: limited magical abilities. As winter passed and spring arrived, the weather grew warmer, willow branches sprouted new buds, and gentle breezes brought spring showers, reviving the earth in a scene of vibrant renewal. In the mountains and forests, trees and plants gradually awakened in the spring, quickly absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Saplings thrived, while mature trees began using this energy to cultivate themselves. After centuries of practice, they mastered the art of transforming into human form. In the Thorny Ridge, such miraculous beings existed. The only thing more frightening is a cultured demon. In the Thorn Ridge, as the name suggests, the area is naturally filled with brambles and lush vegetation. While it may not have the awe-inspiring peaks of towering cliffs, it is famously remote, as the saying goes. Thorny paths stretch for 800 miles, with ancient roads seldom traveled by man. Due to the scarcity of human visitors over time, the vegetation has grown increasingly dense, blocking out the sky, and some of the older trees and plants have naturally developed intelligence. Not only can they transform into human form, but they have also formed a small group, constructing their own sanctuary named Wood Immortals Hermitage. Unlike animals, these tree and plant spirits do not consume humans and are inherently inclined toward a cultured and refined lifestyle, with a deep love for literature, poetry, music, and song. In the Thorn Ridge, such spirits are not uncommon, but the most renowned among them are Duke 18, Young Master Ling, Duke Guzi, Elder Fuyun, Immortal Apricots. Specifically, Duke 18 is a pine tree spirit, Duke Guzi is a cypress tree spirit, Young Master Ling is a cedar tree spirit, Elder Fuyun is a bamboo spirit, and Immortal Apricots is an apricot tree spirit. These spirits have long resided in the mountains, spending their days composing poetry, playing music, and singing, leading a life of elegance. Over time, they began to hope for more talented individuals to join their group, so they kept an eye on any passers-by. Unfortunately, in such a remote wilderness, they never encountered the right candidates. Then one day, while they were passing the time in the forest as usual, a group of monks stumbled in. At a glance they saw that this group consisted of one with a long snout and big ears, another with a hairy face and thunderous mouth, and yet another with red hair and tusks. None of them looked like they could even read. But the monk sitting on the horse was different. With his handsome features and refined demeanor, he stood out. The trees exchanged glances, shaking their branches and rustling their leaves, all thinking that this monk seemed cultured and respectable. Especially Immortal Apricots, who, upon seeing Tang Seng's handsome face, blushed so deeply that even the color of her blossoms intensified. Duke 18 and the others noticed her reaction and teased, "This monk is indeed a fine figure, he's even captivated Immortal Apricots. Looks like we should find a way to invite him to the Wooden Immortals Hermitage." Immortal Apricots and the others agreed, but then reconsidered. Although the idea was good, it would be difficult to execute. Tang Seng's 3 disciples seemed formidable, and one wrong move could cost them their lives. The tree spirits began to discuss how to lure Tang Seng alone, without alerting Sun Wukong and the others. After much deliberation, they finally decided on a plan. Duke 18 would disguise himself as the local keeper and target Tang Seng directly. With the plan in place, they only needed to wait for Tang Seng and his disciples to come closer. Meanwhile, Tang Seng and his disciples had grown tired and stopped to rest on some large rocks. Sun Wukong glanced around, feeling uneasy about the location, and wanted to urge his master to keep moving. But Duke 18 acted quickly, thinking, "Here's our chance." He shook his branches and cast a spell, transforming into an old man with a horned turban, simple clothing, a cane in hand, and straw shoes on his feet. Accompanied by a red-bearded, bare-chested ghostly servant who held a plate of white cakes, Duke 18 approached the group, trembling as he walked. Kneeling before them, he said, "Great sage, I am the keeper of Thorny Ridge. Knowing that you've arrived, I've specially prepared this plate of white cakes to relieve your hunger. I hope you won't find them lacking. Zubaji, delighted to see food, was about to grab some when his elder brother's stern voice rang out, "Hold on. This guy must be a demon trying to trick us." "Demon? Taste my staff." Duke 18, startled, turned and transformed into a gust of wind. With a whoosh he swept Tang Seng into the air, disappearing with him. The remaining 3 disciples were left panicking and regretting their carelessness, unsure of where to start looking for their master in the vast wilderness. But there was no time to dwell on it, they had to split up and search for him. They don't like eating people, but love composing poetry. Duke 18 led the red-haired ghost servant and Tang Seng to the front of the wooden immortal's hermitage. Gently placing Tang Seng down, he reassured him not to be too alarmed, explaining that neither he nor his friends had any malicious intent. They were merely admirers of Tang Seng's elegance and talents, and wished to befriend him, engage in some leisure activities, and exchange literary skills. Tang Seng gradually calmed down, looked around, and saw the bright moonlight and 3 elders standing before him. The first elder had a graceful demeanor, the second had green hair swaying gently, and the third had a humble and dignified presence. They all respectfully greeted him, appearing quite different from the fierce and malevolent demons he had encountered before. Tang Seng began to lower his guard and started conversing with them. Duke 18 and the other tree spirits had put considerable effort into building the wooden immortal's hermitage. Inside there were exotic flowers and plants, lush greenery, the sound of flowing water, and a fragrant aroma in the air. Everything was elegant and refined. Tang Seng, delighted by this fairyland-like place, couldn't help but recite, "A heart of Zen is as clear as the moon, free from dust." Duke 18 immediately responded, "Poetic inspiration is as boundless as the sky, ever renewed." Duke Uzi, unwilling to be outdone, continued, "Fine verses spread like brocade." Young Master Ling thought for a moment and added, "Exquisite words untouched by vulgarity." Finally, Elder Fuyun concluded, "The grandeur of 6 dynasties washes away, leaving behind only the essence of elegance and grace." With this exchange, Tang Seng and the tree spirits found themselves appreciating each other's literary talents, engaging in a back and forth of poetry. After several rounds, Tang Seng said, "Your literary skills are truly admirable. It has been an honor to be your guest today. However, it is getting late, and my 3 disciples must be worried, having searched for me for so long. I cannot stay any longer, and I hope you can show me the way back." Duke 18 and the others were naturally reluctant to let him go, but they didn't want to frighten him either, so they started to speak evasively, "Master, do not worry. Our meeting is a fated one, and though the night..." Before Tang Seng could respond, he saw 2 young maidens in green robes holding a pair of red silk lanterns, leading immortal apricots towards them. Immortal Apricots had put a great deal of effort into her appearance, dressing herself elegantly and charmingly, to leave a good impression on Tang Seng. As she appeared, she was surrounded by swirling mist and carried with her a fragrant breeze. She held a blooming apricot blossom between her lips, her eyes filled with a hint of spring. With graceful steps, she moved lightly towards Tang Seng, dancing elegantly as she approached. By the time she finished the dance, Tang Seng was already blushing, too embarrassed to even lift his head. Duke 18 introduced Tang Seng to immortal apricots, who then took a cup of tea handed to her by a nearby maid, intending to offer it to Tang Seng. Startled, Tang Seng quickly stood up to decline. Seeing this, young Master Ling asked Tang Seng if he could compose a poem to praise immortal apricots. Reluctant to refuse, Tang Seng thought it wouldn't hurt to write a poem, so after a brief moment of reflection he recited, "In ancient times Han Wu admired, Confucius praised at Zhou's shrine. Dong Xian cherished in forest deep, Sun Chu loved the scent divine. Rain moistens red blooms, tender and shy, mist reveals, conceals green in design. Knowing its ripe flavor, mildly tart, fallen fruit each year graces fields of grain." Young Master Ling and the others praised the poem for its elegance and the rich sense of spring it conveyed. After the compliments, Duke 18 said, "Immortal Apricots has deep admiration for you, Master. How can you not appreciate such affection? It would be a great shame to disappoint such devotion." Why not stay and be with immortal apricots? If you agree, Elder Fuyun and I can arrange the marriage, and Duke Guzi and young Master Ling can bear witness. It would be a beautiful union, wouldn't it? Hearing this, Tang Seng's face immediately changed. He thought, not another one trying to marry me. He quickly jumped up and exclaimed, you really are a bunch of demons trying to harm me. Using a beauty trap to deceive me, what kind of reasoning is this? Let me go at once. The four elders, seeing his anger, were filled with fear and didn't dare to speak. The atmosphere grew tense and silent. Suddenly, the red-haired ghost servant burst out in rage, shouting, you ungrateful monk! How dare you reject my sister? What's wrong with her? How could you refuse? With that, he grabbed Tang Seng, trying to push him towards immortal apricots. At this point, Tang Seng realized that these seemingly refined demons could be terrifying when provoked. He understood that he was now facing the 52nd hardship on his journey to the west, the Thorny Ridge's poetic trial. Although Tang Seng was terrified, he was determined not to be controlled by the demons, and a scuffle ensued. Amid the chaos, suddenly, the voice of Sun Wukong was heard from outside. Having searched all night, he finally found the place and heard his master calling for help. He shouted, Master, I'm here. Hearing his eldest disciple's voice, Tang Seng found a surge of strength, broke free from immortal apricots, and ran out the door crying, Wukong, I'm here. Come quickly and save me, hurry. Upon hearing Tang Seng's cries for help, Duke 18 and young Master Ling realized that the situation had turned dire. They hurriedly fled, transforming back into their original forms and hoping not to be discovered. Sun Wukong quickly went to Tang Seng, supported him, and asked what had happened. Tang Seng recounted the events at the Wood Immortal's hermitage in detail, and when he described being forced into marriage, he became tearful and extremely aggrieved. Sun Wukong looked around and saw an old cypress tree, an ancient pine, a venerable juniper, an old bamboo, and behind the bamboo a red maple. On the cliffside there was an old apricot tree, 2 wax plums, and 2 osmanthus trees. Sun Wukong smiled and approached the trees, saying, I thought it was some formidable opponent, but it's just this. Duke 18 is the pine tree, Duke Guzi is the cypress, young Master Ling is the juniper, Elder Fuyun is the bamboo, the red-haired ghost is the maple, immortal apricots is the apricot tree, and the young girls are the osmanthus and wax plums. Hearing this, Zubaji didn't hold back. He brandished his rake, toppling the wax plums, osmanthus, old apricot and maple trees. Turning around, he swung his rake again, cutting down the pine, cypress, juniper, and bamboo. In an instant, the once thriving Wood Immortal's hermitage turned desolate. With the area now in ruins, Sun Wukong and the others felt relieved, helped their master onto his horse, and continued their journey westward along the main road.